Hey everybody, it's Eddie here at Eddie Makes Art. I'm gonna make some gel prints today, but I'm gonna really focus on layers and getting my layers to work better for me. And I'm just gonna dive into it, and you'll see what I mean as I continue as we go through. So this is one of my stencils. This one is called Diamond Rings. It comes in two styles. I believe this is style 2. But there's 2 styles. This is one, Diamond Rings. Anyway, this is the 8x10, and I'm using it on my large plate, but that's okay. So what I want to do actually before I do this is I want the outline of this stencil to be a dark blue. I'm going to use this indigo here. So let me do that first. I hope everyone is doing well. I am excited today to be able to do a live video for you. And we may get interrupted by my loudmouth brother, but nothing new there. I always usually edit that out because he doesn't always have the cleanest of mouths. But anyway, and then I have some these are encyclopedia pages that Liz Bent sent me, so I'm going to use these as my brayer offs to then use them for something else later. All right, so if I put my stencil down over the paint, I know that paint, that paint will stay wet under the stencil. That is our, that is the goal. So I need to pick up what's on here. I'm using this old print that is on carnival tissue that I wasn't excited about anyway, so we're just gonna go over it and pick up whatever is poking through the stencil design here and do our best to get as much of that up. And it might take 2 passes, which, yes. I have another piece of tissue here waiting. This is Carnival wet strength tissue that I use to pick up in between because it does do a good job. It holds a lot of paint and it doesn't rip or stick. And there's a link for the Carnival tissue in the description box under this video. So if you're interested, yeah, check them out. So, but now what I want to do though is I want to add a design here, or I want to add something else to this, and I'm thinking, see, I have to think these things through to make sure that I'm doing it right. Get some of that extra paint out of there. That's pretty much dry. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this up, and I left it down too long, but that's the outline on the outside. So I'm going to leave that, let that dry. I'll come back and I'll continue with my next layer. So for the next layer, I'm going to use this stencil. This is Aqueous Effervescence from PM Art Studio. And I'm going to take this craft paint. This is Dutch Aqua. And I'm going to create a layer of this. Make sure I have enough paint. There's a lot of openings here, so we need to fill a lot of these spaces. I'm going to do my best to keep it within that 8x10 space. Now, here's the other thing. When brayering out this layer on top of the other layer, I'm trying not to brayer too much because I don't want to pull up any of the paint that's already down. Okay. So, okay, it wants to stick down. Here, let's clean you up first. This is thin paper, so I gotta be careful. Get this up. Okay, so that's my second layer. I'm gonna let this dry, and then I'm gonna pick it up with something believe a yellow. I'm going to use a yellow, and hopefully this will all work together. Okay, for this last layer, I'm going to use this yellow, which, here we go. This is called a Buttercup. It's a matte acrylic. And then that will be the last layer. I'm going to use Hammer Mill copy paper today. It's the 32-pound color copy paper. It's a nice weight. It's awesome for gel printing. It's a little more expensive than the just regular copy paper, but you're going to get a lot better results from this. So let's brayer this out. Sure, get enough out here to cover this 8.5 by 11 sheet. All right, so let's get that down nice and evenly. Use our tissue pickup. You can also, if you're not keen on getting the Carnival wet stripe tissue, you can also use as an alternative waxed paper, or actually not waxed paper, I apologize, deli paper. You can get it, you know, at your grocery store or you know, online. And those are also great for using in collage as you would a tissue paper. And it's a more cost-effective way to do this if you don't want to invest in the Carnival tissue, because it is a little bit more pricey than a typical tissue, but it is worth it if you are willing to invest. Get my Baron here and give this a nice going over, and then I'm going to sit and let that dry completely. That's nice. A lot of that on the edges came off, which is great. I want to try and get some of this off because I don't want it to give me a problem later. I don't know if you can tell on the camera. I'll try and zoom up when I'm editing, but right in here, you can see this rippling, right? A lot of times, especially gel printers who are beginning, or people who are beginning to gel print, have questions about how long to leave paper down, or I put my paper down and when I pulled it, it ripped, you know, stuff like that. This is a great indication that you do not want to mess with this paper. That means it's still wet. You can also tell by putting your hand down and feeling. If it's cold to the touch, just let it lay, let it be, let it chill, let it do its thing, and then come back, give it at least an hour and take a look. This is all going to be dependent as well on your climate. And, you know, coming up on the warmer months of the year, there are places around the country that means much drier weather. Other places it's going to be, you know, humid weather because maybe there's more rain. You know, so it all depends. Just, you know, be aware that if the humidity is high in your area, your paints are going to take longer to dry. If the humidity is average, again, it's going to take, you know, a normal amount of time. And if you're in a drier climate, like in the southwest of the USA, it's going to be quick drying. So a lot of times, people in those areas will tend to use paints that are specifically open, like the golden open paints that have an added extender to make them so they don't dry as quickly, so you have longer time to work with them. And then also there's an additive called an extender or a retarder, depending on where you get it. This particular one that I use is from Blick. It's the retarder. Blick Artist Acrylic slows drying time of acrylic paints. And typically I mix this with the paint in about a 4-to-1 paint to retarder ratio. And I like to do it usually, if I can, on a separate palette, whether it be my smaller, 5x7 plate, or just, on a little palette. Because if you put this stuff directly onto your plate and then add the paint, it's gonna leave like slick looking marks that may ruin the final print. So mix it separately and mix it well, and that will help extend the open time and the play time of your paints. Okay, I think this is sufficiently dried. I think I'm gonna cross my fingers because no, this seems pretty dry. I think we're okay. So push down on the edges there, kind of also called cracking the edges, to make sure everything is nice and loosened up from the plate so we don't get any rips. And then just take your time, pull back. So far, so good. Yeah, some of that yellow paint did stay behind, but I'm not too worried about that. Okay, so here is the print. I think that turned out pretty good. You've got 2 stencils, 3 layers of paint. Pretty cool combo, but I think we can do better. Okay, so move that to the side. So I think for this next one, I want to use this fish stencil. This is by Paula Keene. She's a fellow designer at PM Artist Studio, and I am not keen on the name right now, but it'll all be in the description below the video as per usual. For this, I'm going to do the fish alone in this pure orange folk art craft paint. Easy peasy. 97 cents. So what I'm basically doing today is I am demonstrating that you don't have to have super expensive materials to make these really cool gel prints. All right, for this I'm just going to use a smaller brayer because I just want to focus on getting the paint through the openings here. That will create our fish. And that will be the front layer. And I decided to go ahead and do this without cleaning the plate because the yellow, I think, will add a cool texture. The yellow that's left on the plate will add a cool texture to the fish once we pull this final print. Let me see if I can make sure every area is full. And I like this orange. It doesn't seem to be drying quickly. It's nice for a craft paint. No more messing. I think that's good. Let's just pull that up. And remember, when you're pulling up a brand new Yupo stencil, which this is, off the gel plate, take your time. Especially if it has a lot of delicate points. Take your time, otherwise you will rip it and you won't be happy. I'm gonna let that dry. I think that looks really cool. Just gonna let that dry like that. For the next layer, I was thinking of using my new stencil hookups as a next layer, and we can certainly do that and then pick up with a final layer. So what am I thinking for a color here? And keeping in mind that from what I'm seeing here, this is more of a transparent orange, more translucent orange, so you can see right through. This is on plastic here. So I don't want to put something behind it that's going to turn it into a different color. For example, if I were to put a blue, it may brown it out. However, so let's think about this. What are some colors that would work great with the orange and be still Won't change it up too much. I have this cadmium yellow medium hue. It's semi-transparent. But I want to do something darker though. We could do red. Just go ahead and go with crimson, or is that too much? Is that too much? I mean, as far as like, is it too dark? Let me spin my little lazy Susan here, see what paints jump out at me. Okay, I'm gonna do the hooks in yellow. I'm gonna get that yellow that I had out earlier, the cadmium yellow medium. So let's put this down. I'm gonna go, let's make sure this is dry before I go crazy. Yeah, that is nice and dry. So this is gonna be the next layer. And sure, I tap it down just so nothing flips up while I'm rolling out the paint. Okay. Go. Try and get this as even as possible. This may not have been a strong enough contrast, but we'll take a look. Let's see. It's not too bad. All right, that's dry sufficiently. So I'm using this light blue, or permanent light blue permanent. I always get it wrong. Light blue permanent. Maybe a little bit more. Actually, no. Do that. I'm going to do this metallic here, which is the Pebeo Studio Acrylics High Viscosity 357. It's a blue, iridescent blue-green. It's got a little bit of green, but not a lot, so it keeps it on the more the teal side. Teal, turquoise, whatever. Lighter blue. Doesn't add a ton of shine, but adds enough. Now, do I want it a little bit darker than that? Or what I can do is I can add this. This stuff is great. This is a reflexive white paint. It adds a reflexive quality to the paint. And it is transparent, so it really doesn't dull down the paint much. Just maybe a little bit, not much though. Okay, ooh. Take it easy, Eddie. Get this on here. And again, I'm using, for a pickup, I'm going to do the 8.5 by 11 Hammermill copy paper. A little bit of a paint thingy here, a dry bit of paint. I may not get the contrast I want here, but that is, you know, this is a good way to learn. And then you can sit back and you look, okay, you go, okay, this is what I used. Write it down on the back of your print. You know, these are paints I use. And then, you know, you can, for the future, you have a reference. Okay, maybe these don't work as well together, but maybe, you know, this with this will work, or, you know, it's a good way. It's a good idea to keep that record, so you know, as you're learning, how your paints are going to behave together. I like that. I think we should retire this one here. So, okay, I'll be back and we'll pull this one and see what comes out. All right, so this has dried for a while now. I'd say about 15 minutes. And let's see. So far, so good. And we're getting some of that leftover, a lot of that leftover stuff from that first print, which is fine with me. And you can see, I do like the fact that the yellow kind of got a little greenish, but it's not obliterated. It's not like a ugly green. And the orange didn't get that much darker than I thought it would, which is awesome. And we've got some great edges here from that first print, and then that yellow from the first print too that pulled up. I could have done a better job blurring out the blue, but otherwise I think it worked really well. And I think the next time I'm going to use a straight metallic. This one is nice, but I'd want more metallic. I need a metallic orange is what I need. I don't have a metallic orange. That's I think next on the list. Let's keep going. Let's have some more playtime. I'm going to get some of this up so it doesn't interfere later. I want to do the fish one again. I think we can get a much better print with a better selection of colors, you know, with better understanding now that we know what those particular colors did. Oh, this orange stripe, that's on the plastic underneath, so that's not going to affect anything. Now maybe what we do this time for the fishies is we do something that is darker, or do we do the fishies in a metallic? Yeah, that's gonna be what we're gonna do. Here, I have this beautiful, it says solid bronze. Let's get metallic-y all up in this piece. All right. Make sure that's stuck down nice. I don't want to flip up while I'm brayering this out. Make sure there's enough. All right, this is thick, and that's okay. I wanted it that way. Okay, I'm going to lift this carefully, and then this layer is going to dry completely. If I mess around with it at all before it dries completely, it'll start peeling back and peeling up, and that's just going to ruin it. So it's beautiful there. Let's leave it alone. I'm going to take a little break. I'll be right back. All right, I went ahead and pulled out and cleaned up my 9x12 plate. It was a little grungy earlier, so I took a few minutes and I cleaned it up. And because that metallic is taking a little bit to dry because it is on thick, but I want to give it a chance to fully dry. So I'm just going to continue with some other prints on here. Let's bring back diamond rings. I'm trying to keep my stencils over here on this hook that I have on my shelf. It's probably shaking the camera, I'm sorry. So again, I want to start with the dark color because I want the outline of this stencil. So, and because I just want to get a nice dark blue. So I'm going to go ahead with this Prussian, and this is the Amsterdam one. So, get a nice layer down. even as possible. Good. Okay. Lay that down. Get the tissue. And I know this particular paint dries quickly, so I have experience with it. So I am not going to take chances and just make sure I just move along here. Get as much of that through as I can. And I'm not pushing down, I'm not smooshing. I'm just kind of rubbing here and there to get the paint up through the design. And that will leave behind the outline. See, look at that. It's a cool print. It's gonna be good. I'm gonna need another picked up with this one. Get that over. All right. Much better outline. I'm gonna let that dry. Clean this little brayer off, or this brayer. This will be fun to play with later. This particular brayer off. Nice. Okay, so for the next layer, I decided to go ahead again and use this Buttercup matte acrylic. But I'm gonna use it in conjunction with this other stencil. This one's my other diamond rings. I believe this is style 1, this is 2. So these are brother, sister, sister, brother. I don't know what you want to call them. They're family. All right, make sure that's nice and flat. Sure there's enough paint on there to get into all the nooks and crannies. Sometimes using a small roller helps you get into those spaces a little bit better. So, gently lift this up, and I'm going to flop it onto a piece of paper here. That's called a flop off. However, it's a brand new clean stencil. I do not want to leave it on the paper for very long. So I'm going to drop, roll, and lift. If I leave it on any longer, that paper's gonna start sticking to the U-bow because there's not a lot, the paint starts to dry and then the paper's just sucked in. This I'm gonna try and clean up if I can, a little bit. See if I can get it up without disturbing the blue, but I doubt it. Now, so that's what that's gonna look like. And so we're gonna need an awesome color that's gonna push it all forward. Da, 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 da. We're gonna have to think about that one. I'll put this to the side here to dry. Now, let me bring over metallic. Let's make sure this is completely dry. This is still wet, so I'm gonna pause the camera again, let this dry, and I'll come back and we'll add another layer. All right, so now this print is fully dry, or at least the layer of this particular print is dry. Let's bring in hookups again. I'm gonna lay that on top. Now, here's my only dilemma. I don't want to pull this up, so I got to be very gentle when I brayer this out over this design. Okay. So we're using, again, this is the Prussian blue from Amsterdam. Give myself enough here where I don't have to really be pushing too much. Isn't that cool? That's from cleaning off the stencil earlier. It's like marbled. All right. Come on. Gonna have to add a little bit more because obviously it's not covering where I want it to. Now, I'll bring in my smaller brayer and just try and hit these areas so that I got a nice bit of coverage. Come on, there we go, a little bit more, you got this. There we go. Okay. And remember, I'm only using the 8.5 by 11 paper, so a lot of this edging we won't get on the print, which is wonderful. Let me get this down onto here, because there's a lot of paint on this stencil. Let's get that down, oops. Some tissue. So clean this off while that dries up. It shouldn't take too long. So let's discuss what color to pick this up with. So we have copper and blue. So they call it bronze on the thing, on the jar. I call it copper, but that's just me. See, when the paint is built up on the stencil, it's less likely to stick to the paper. But you still want to be careful that you don't leave it down there too long. If the paper does get stuck to your stencil and you are like, OMG, what am I gonna do? Easy, you take whatever paper you can, peel it off gently, save it for collage if you want. Then the rest, just get a little bucket or a little thing of water where you can fit your stencil into, and then soak it in the water, and the paper will come off and clean up your stencil and it'll be fine. Don't scrub your stencil, just wipe it down and it'll be fine. Trust me, it's happened to me a few times. So that is not something I'm unfamiliar with. And trust me, it can be, you know, a little heartbreaking. You get this really cool print going and you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get this, let me clean this down. And it just completely sticks, and it's disappointing. But you know, if you're careful, it won't happen as much. But if it does, there's ways around it. So you haven't ruined your stencil if the paper sticks. Just don't try to rip it off. Just soak it in some water and let it sit there, let the paper come off, and then gently wipe it off and you're fine. All right, so that'll be fun to play with later. All right, so we're thinking of colors to pick this up with. Copper and Prussian blue. So let's think out loud. I should be cleaning these off. Oh, look at that, that's cool. How it leaves the design. Okay, I'm gonna go with this blue here. This is a bright aqua green. And I don't have much, but I'm gonna add some extender to it. Because I'm gonna need some time to make sure I bray it all out. Although I think this might be enough. let's see here. Let me do a little thingy here. Let's brayer it out, get it all on my... Yeah, I think that's enough. That should be enough. I just was kind of afraid there wasn't enough in there. There's more than I thought. And I want to get a nice, not super thick layer, but thick enough where it's going to make sure and get down into those first 2 layers and grab that paint. So when we pull our print, it comes up nice and clean. Okay, I'm going to put my paper down. And this bad boy is going to sit until it dries completely. Okay. I'll be back once this is dry completely. All right, can't forget, we got this one here. I'm gonna add another layer of paint before I do a pull color. So I'm just gonna add this on top. This is a color shift paint by Folk Art. It's Emerald Flash. And it shifts, it says here on the back of the bottle, it shifts to gold. So when you're turning the print or when you look at the print from a different angle, you're gonna see gold. And these are usually pretty transparent. But I'm just going to do a thin layer to help this print come alive, and then that's going to dry, and I'll come back in with a solid color and pull all of this together. It should make for an interesting print. These color shift paints are a lot of fun to play around with and create different effects. So if I can, so I have this one on the plexi, and it's hard to see, but there is a subtle difference. And once we get that final layer on, that's going to be the key to make sure that we, that everything is pulled together. All right, I got a little bit of a mess going here, but here's what I did. So I decided I'm going to do a light blue pull color for this particular one. Now, what I did is I mixed up some cerulean blue and a bunch of titanium white, so more white to blue. And I got this really nice shade, and I think that will work for us. This should be enough paint. There'll be some dark spots, but that's okay. All right, we're set that aside. Roll this out quickly so I can get my paper down. All right, there we go. Nicely covered, and my paper is over here. Cover my bases and make sure I get all that down there, because I might be a little short. And my tissues here. All right. Get this nice brayer, or smoothing out with the Baron. The words are hard today. All right, so I think this will look really good. Fingers crossed. Let's pull up this tissue and see if that everything. Yeah. Tissue's looking good, huh? And sometimes the back of your prints are going to get a little painty, but that's okay. That's not the side we're interested in. I do need to clean this off. Okay, now, yep, let's see. I think that's going to be pretty cool. And remember, you know, we're looking through a plate and, you know, the gel, the actual, the plexi and the gel plate. So it's going to look a little different once we pull it. And this one should be good. I'm going to give it a go. Let me see, make sure my edges are not going to stick. Now I'm going to take my time. If it looks like things are sticking, I'm going to lay it back down, but looks like this is going to pull nicely. Oh. Love it. That turned out awesome. I really like that. Look at that. The background is matte, so the, you know, the fish really stand out. And the hooks don't, you know, overpower it either. I love it. I think this one turned out really good. Okay, I'm gonna let this dry. I'll come back and we'll pull this one. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and pull this print here. This is the last print. So, fingers crossed. Let's give this a nice gentle pull. Oh, wow. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Look at that, baby. And I think this is my favorite so far. And that subtlety from the color shift paint, you can see it's not overpowering. You can make out the two designs. I think that's a winner. And then we have these two. This was the very first one, which, you know, compared to this, yeah, it's different. It's in the same color family, but we did a better job of applying the paint, the right, you know, thickness and all that good stuff. Okay. And then this was the first one attempt with the fish, which still turned out good. I like it. So there we go. 4 awesome prints, layered, and you know, nothing too difficult. It's more thinking about what colors go with what colors. So I hope especially for you beginners, you got some good tips. And like I said, you don't have to use super expensive stuff to create, you know, really cool prints. You know, these are all about $1 each, these paints, folk art, right? You know, the most expensive paint I think I used was the Lucas Krill. Did I use any Lucas Krill? I don't think I did. Anyway, you know, no, the Amsterdam, that was the most expensive one, and that was about $8 for that bottle. So, you know, it's a matter of getting to know your paints, getting to know what you have and how to use it, how they work together. So get your gel plate out, experiment. It's just paint and paper. That's it. So have fun, enjoy your gel plate. And, you know, as always, if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. Thanks. Bye.